In today's video, we'll be undertaking a shell challenge from S Doyle 95 on the gallery. Now today's challenge is going to be really tricky as they've used a lot of curved shapes in this build, and in some areas these don't quite line up, and especially with the square edges of the build, it's going to be quite tricky to roof. So I started there. Often when it comes to doing anything curved, even if it's an octagonal edge, I like to use a mix between gable roofs and these curved roof pieces to kind of align it a bit more to the squared off edges. To make this build more challenging, I also decided that I would try and limit myself to what I consider kind of the farmhouse bonus packs or expansion packs that come with the game. So for this I am using Country Kitchen and Cottage Living. For the exterior I wanted to keep it fairly simple, something with bricks. I feel like the shape could be very modernised, but I decided to go for something more like a witchy house. I couldn't find a chimney that I liked in this pack, and I wanted to turn this third floor roof piece into a chimney, so I just used these two chimney pieces and merged them together. For this build challenge, being a shell challenge, you are allowed to change the walls to fences or the walls to half walls, but you aren't allowed to delete any external walls. I was playing around with the idea of doing a back patio, but I think a pool would help finish off this rounded edge at the back. I also threw in some lights in the house just so I could see what I was doing when I got to that. I wanted to hide this weird awkward angle, so I used a lot of wall details to do this. I kind of gave the whole house this overgrown look with these vines. Of course, layering them, using some cheats, I guess, alt placing them and enlarging them to make them look a little less like they're all the exact same thing, copy and pasted. I struggled to start with this house, especially with the floor plan, as it's a very awkward space and I wasn't sure how I should complete it. I wanted to create a very grand stairway in this house. I was hoping to have something that was quite wide, but due to the limitations in base game or just my skills, I wasn't able to complete it quite to my liking. I wanted to add an extra section in the middle, so I tried to use platforms to raise this space up, but I ended up having a lot of issues with the walls, and you'll see me playing around with it a lot as it creates this extra space, but if I were to get rid of that, that would mess up my entire second floor. I wanted to turn this curved room in the second floor into a bit of a balcony. Thought that might help with the awkward shapes and I wouldn't have to roof that area either. I also thought it would be good to overlook the pool and would add to the vibe of the house. Of course, every house needs a bathroom that's accessible for guests, and I also decided that I'd create kind of a laundry room there. Of course, again, you can see me playing around with this awkward space that I have and trying to find a way that doesn't absolutely ruin the build. I somewhat fixed my problem, but it did then create another problem with my external balcony area and the roofing for that space being messed up, so you will see me fix that later. I worked on adding bathrooms and bedrooms and just a really rough layout to upstairs. Of course you will see me delete this all and then re-add it. Upstairs I was really trying to stick within these little groupings that I'd created, but I kind of felt after a while that there was nothing I could possibly do that would stick within these packs. But I kept the wallpaper and most of the basics of this house within the packs that I had selected. With challenges like this, it can be really tricky, and I don't have that many packs, so of course I did struggle a bit here. I wanted to create a bit of a library in this open space here and felt that having it a bit more open plan would help with this. Would open the area up a bit more, and having these hallways didn't really feel right to have it so closed off. I usually theme my bedrooms. I like to keep a cohesive colour scheme, and using these packs really helps with that. I wanted to add a desk to these rooms, but I decided to settle for the dressers in these corners instead. I felt like it really suited the time frame that I'd imagined that this house would be built in. And then of course a little entryway and a kitchen. In this build I do wish that I had workshopped more ways to fill up the space, as I did feel that the ground floor was a little too open, but again, this was just a quick build challenge that I was looking at, and I didn't want to change too many details about the floor plan to make it too convoluted. I tried to go through all the rooms and do all the windows and place as much furniture as I could without going outside the base pack for this. But eventually I just changed over to using a French country and farmhouse filter to make sure that everything I placed matched what I was originally going for without straying too far from that, but still allowing myself to use more content. This house would be suitable for up to 5 adult Sims. It was more in my mind that it's a small family with a parent's room, a room for the older child and then for the younger child, with a lovely little library space here. I tried to make this space look a little less awkward by adding a display cabinet and then putting some fencing behind it as safety so that your hypothetical Sim doesn't fall into the big hole. I wanted a grand dining table to really help this elegant vibe that I had going, and I thought a huge picture wall would work. But originally I had planned to put a window there, and I do come back later to do so. I wanted a nice outdoor entertaining space as well to kind of connect to the pool. Unfortunately you can't have a door leading to the pool, nor can you have a gate. So I do break the rules and destroy the wall here, but I believe that it is in good faith. I didn't plan to break rules, it's just that Sims won't let me do anything otherwise. I figured this would be a nice place for them to entertain in the summer and access the pool, and given that the entertaining space is also shaded, it's quite suitable. I added lights everywhere. I love doing little front door lights as well, and then just made sure the entire house had adequate lighting. For this upstairs area, I was really trying to see if there were any skill items that I could use that would be suitable. I think an easel would have worked quite well out here, but when I spotted that I could have the piano, I thought that that was quite fun, that it was very fitting with the scenic area, and that it would be quite entertaining to sit by the pool and have someone play piano from above. I do like to clutter my builds, but I kept this one fairly simple, just as something presentational and easy to just kind of plop onto any block. Finally, I moved on to landscaping just to kind of finish off this build, make sure everything looked cohesive, and of course that there was proper access to the pool. This build is very overgrown, so I kind of wanted to add that into the yard, of course with lots of trees and shrubbery. And when I do this, I also like to make sure that the trees look like they'd be from the same area. So anything that's more thin-leaved will be from a drier climate, whereas broader leaves tend to be from somewhere a bit more wet. I also like to match grasses with different flowers and scatter those around areas that are clearly bursting with life. This also helps any messy edges around the bottoms of trees, edges of the house, and of course where I had those vines growing. Finally, I just added a little path and some wear around the trees, and of course, you know, these things are growing, so the grass isn't going to be everywhere. Added some dried vines, I think they're from the Vampires pack, just to add some age onto those growing vines and make it look a bit more realistic, and then some plants on the roof, as I felt like the grass was a little too neat for the build that I had going. And there you go, that is the completed build.